the coming weeks, I'll use whatever power this office holds to engage my fellow citizens, from law enforcement to mental health professionals to parents and educators, in an effort aimed at preventing more tragedies like this. Because what choice do we have?
The President's position on the assault weapons ban has not changed. He still supports its reenactment. This is a complex problem, and there are obstacles to taking action.
I ask all my friends in the NRA, and I'm a proud NRA member and always have been, that we need to sit down and move this dialogue to a sensible, reasonable approach to fixing. It's part of it, not all of it, but everything has to be on the table, and I think it will be.
And I absolutely believe that Americans have a right to reasonable gun ownership. But I also know, after this enormous tragedy, coming not that long after the tragedy at Virginia Tech, when my daughters asked me Friday night, "Dad, you're in the Senate. Why can't we put reasonable restrictions on assault weapons or these rapid-fire ammunition clips?" I didn't have a good enough answer for them. And so I, even as a NRA A-rated member, believe enough is enough. We all need to come to the table and end up with an appropriate restrictions.
Look, I understand this reflexive move to do this. In principle, I'm not opposed to it. The problem is that we have some history with this. We had a decade of that assault weapons ban from the mid-90s. It lasted for a decade, and if you look at the studies, had no appreciable influence on gun violence or the lethality of individual attacks. And there are three elements here. Again, it's the shooter, it's the weapon, it's the environment. And all that liberals and mainstream media want to look at, of course, is the weapon. But there are other ways of looking at this. If you look at the shooter himself and the mental health issue, the fact that you cannot get a commitment on these kinds of people, I'm thinking most of Jared Loughner, the shooter in Tucson, Arizona. Everybody knew he was a grenade about to go off. Anybody who knew him, was in class with him, said that. But you could only stop him after he killed. And we have moved so radically the last 50 years to making it difficult to commit people who are dangerous that there has to be a shift in the other direction. So that has to be on the table. And there's also Hollywood with the desensitization to violence, the way they make it they make it ubiquitous. They make it insensitive. You can imagine this kid, near autistic, playing these games where you mow people down without consequence. I can understand Obama speaking to the NRA. Is he going to speak to the ACLU on commitment? Is he going to speak to Hollywood on at least a voluntary curtailment of this obscene amount of violence in their product?
This has been a Sunfish production.